Being a millennial is rough. In this video, I'm just going to talk about how rough life is as a millennial when it comes to finances and when it comes to life in general. So, hey, stick around if you want to hear me rant, get my feelings off, whatever. It's not going to be a rant. I know how to keep control. But I'm just here thinking about things, making a YouTube channel, doing all this stuff. And the good thing about making a YouTube channel is that it's a side hustle that I enjoy. But I started thinking, why do I need a side hustle? I need a side hustle because I can't afford anything. I'm thankful I got a good job, but yet with my job, I am trying to save every penny I got. I got my little slogan that I say all the time on the channel, get out of debt, build an emergency fund, simplify your life. And while that's nice and everything, and I want to continue to do that because I know that's the way to survive, it's like, man, life as a millennial has been absolutely rough because you can't afford anything. And when I say you can't afford anything, hey, let me give you some examples. I got married. We can't have no kids. I mean, we can have them, but if we have them, how are we going to pay for them? The average daycare cost is like $2,400 a month. That's more than my mortgage. That's more than a lot of people's mortgage. But if you don't go and have your kids sent to daycare, how are you going to go to work? So, okay, kids are off the table. And then having a home. I'm thankful that I was able to get a home, but it wasn't, like I had just a bunch of money and, oh, yeah, here's your home that you just go and buy yourself. Nah, man, a lot of good circumstances came together for me to have my home. So right there already, the difference with other generations and millennials is we can't even get houses. We can't even have kids. The solutions that I give on this channel are the ones that it's like, okay, if you don't do them, what are you doing? As in, what are you doing? Because you have no choice. It's either you do those solutions like staying out of credit card debt, building an emergency fund, and simplifying your life, or you just walk around in debt as a slave. But it's like, people are going into debt slavery for things that they need. They're going into debt slavery for food. They're going into debt slavery for shelter. They're going into debt slavery for paying their utility bills. The housing market is so bad right now that most people got to rent. Well, when you rent, you don't own anything. You don't get any equity. So you're basically just throwing your money in the fire. I know a lot of people may disagree with that, but I mean, it is what it is. How does renting secure you wealth? When you look at your net worth, that ain't your net worth that's building up because you renting. That's your landlord's net worth that's building up. So I'm looking at all these things and I'm going, okay, because I'm on the younger millennial side, but the average first-time home buyer now is 40. 40. I'm not 40 yet. What is going on? Well, I know what's going on. Things are just becoming harder and harder and harder for people. And it ain't just America. This is all around the world. And so the things that I say on this channel, like, they're things that a person has to do because it depends on your perspective in life. I feel like you have to do them because what's the point in walking around and you just live in debt? Every single paycheck you get, you got to give it away. And you're anxious, you're fiending, you're just scared. Because if one missed paycheck happens, you're cooked. But it's funny that a whole generation has to face that. All the millennials have to face it. I mean, like, think about the things that millennials were taught growing up. See, we were the generation that got pushed to go to college. College. And if we didn't go to college, then you wouldn't get a job. Well, a job that you could support your family with. That's what we were told. And so we didn't go get the trades. We didn't learn how to be plumbers and electricians and things like that. We all went to school so that we could get the white collar jobs. And hey, I'm thankful to have my job. It's a great job, But have I been laid off before? Yeah, I got laid off before. And I'll tell you this, I got laid off from one of the most secure jobs in the country. And when that happened to me, when that traumatized me, I felt like, okay, nothing is safe now. You know, I'm living in a time period where you got to go to work and you got to save as much money as possible. You got to live up under your means, and you got to make this work, because it could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month. A layoff could come. And it reminds me of what somebody said one day. They were talking about Mount St. Helens. It was this mountain, it's still there, in Washington, that erupted in 1980. And if you go back and you look at news reports, before that thing erupted, there were tons of people who thought, no, it'll never happen. You know, they had heard about eruptions before, but that was like 100 years before. So it stood like this big institution that no one thought could ever erupt. And then one day it erupted. And a lot of those people who felt like nothing was going to happen, a lot of them lost their lives, tragically, very sadly. And when I had that job was so secure. I thought, man, this thing is a mountain. This thing is a rock. And I got laid off. And it traumatized me. It messed me up. It's really what gave birth to my type of thinking for this channel. Because after that, you know, miraculously, a few months before that, my wife had convinced me that I needed to start budgeting, because before I had a job where I wasn't making a lot of money, so I was always behind when it came to debt. I was never behind when it came to my bills. My credit was pretty good, but when it came to needing things, I just wasn't making enough money, so I had to use credit cards to get those things. And I always felt like, hey man, debt is a part of life. But she woke me up. She said, no, Richard, you need to go ahead and start budgeting. She would take my computer and, you know, make me go on Microsoft Excel. I got a whole video about it if you want me to go into more detail or you want to hear more about that story. But anyway, she had talked to me a few months earlier, and I was able to save up about 3 months of emergency funding. And then when we both got laid off, both of us. When we got laid off, we had to survive off of those 3 months. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what if I had not done that at the time that I did that? I'm very thankful that I did. And it took me about 2 months to find another job. Great job, pays me more. I love it. I hope I can keep it. You know, if anybody from there sees this video, I'm a very happy employee. But it changed me to where I got mean about my finances. I got mean about my budgeting, because when you really think about all this stuff, what do these things really matter? In the sense of, oh, I'm going to go get a whole bunch of possessions. Yeah, I got a big TV. I like to watch the game. But do I need 10 big TVs? No, it's pointless. It's just a waste of money. Because what happens is, if you get more and more stuff, the more stuff you get, the more money you're going to have to make, and the more anxious you are. I mean, is this really a winning strategy? When you see these people all on TV and they're just, you know, flexing, and I got this and I got that, but then you start to learn the real stories of what they got going on. These people are broke. These people are miserable. Take musicians, for example. You know, not too many musicians have money, because that big deal that they sign is really nothing more than a loan. So they got to perform. They got to put out albums. They got to do all these things. And all they're doing is paying back the loan. It's very rare that an artist, musician, makes any profit. And when they want to go out and make the music on their own and be independent, they can't, because the deal that they signed, somebody owns their masters, owns all their music. That's the game. So a lot of these people who you see who are walking around, oh, I got this and I got that, they're broke. Us as millennials, why do that? I mean, why doom spin? Why, oh yeah, I got to take this trip because, oh, I'm only going to live to, hey, a lot of people live long. If you look, a lot of people make it to 70 or 80. And so if you're a person who is wise about your finances, maybe when you get a little bit older, you'll be able to do things and you won't have to worry. At least you won't have to worry that much. Now, there's a lot of things that I've gone over in this video that are out of our control. I mean, dog, the economy collapsing, I don't know, this is like the third time in my life. I mean, this is rough, but I can't control that. What I can control is, okay, the economy is crashing. Well, all that I'm invested in is safe ETFs like VOO, VEU. Okay, so I'm not leveraged in the stock market. I didn't trade off a margin, which is trading off of debt. I wasn't, I wasn't going to make a decision like that. Okay, I got a 3 to 6 month emergency fund saved up. 6 to 12 months is really what I preach, what I believe. I mean, that's the stuff that's in your control. And I'm looking, and it's like, we already can't get ahead when it comes to getting a home. We already can't get ahead when it comes to having kids. But you know what we can get ahead on? If we have a job saving our money, if we have a job staying out of credit card debt, if we have a job building an emergency fund. I mean, that's the stuff that I can control. And like I said, life as a millennial is rough. I mean, really, if you are a person who was born in the 1990s, or let's take it back to, when the generation of millennials started to be counted. I think it was 1985 to 1996 or something like that. Just to go down the history of events again. Okay, there was the Gulf War. There was 9/11, Afghanistan War, Iraq War, the Great Recession. Then you had the pandemic. Now you got the AI bubble. A lot of us only been walking around for at most 40 years. I mean, dude, this is wild. It's a lot going on. But you know what the game is? The game that a lot of people will tell you is that there's so much going on that it's impossible for millennials and Gen Zers to get ahead. When that's just not true. That's just not true. And maybe not get ahead, but just survive. You can make wise decisions financially to survive. You don't have to spend all your money on the latest and greatest. You don't have to doom spend. You don't have to only rely on one income to make it. And I'm not saying, you should go work 2-3 different jobs. I'm saying, pick up a camera and make a YouTube channel. You never know what could happen. You never know. I mean, there are ways to brave through this time. And I don't think that's being talked about enough. I think a lot of people are just into doom and that's it. And I get it. But at the same time, if you're wise and you make good decisions, when you have bad times like this, you can be an observer instead of someone who's being highly affected by it. We're all going to be affected by it because life right now is just a struggle. Like the inflation, you can't do anything about that. What others choose to do on a wide scale, you can't do anything about that. But there are things that you can do. That's what I try and keep in mind when I make these videos. Quick example, for example, why am I making this video? I'm making this video because I got the highly polished ones that are really good, in my opinion, but I also wanted ones where I could just turn on the camera and talk, turn on the camera and just, be real. I'm real in the other ones, but I got my script, I got my, stock footage, I got my, I got my process with those. But with this one, hey man, sometimes I just want to sit down and give it some, real advice, not financial advice, because, I don't want to get sued, but you get what I'm saying. So in conclusion, I'll go ahead and end this and free you. If you watch till the end, hey, like, comment, and subscribe. Help me to build my channel. I'm a small YouTuber. I'm just trying to make it to 1,000 subscribers. Really, what I'm trying to do is make an extra, $100, $200, $500 would be beautiful. I could go buy some groceries then. I could afford them, But hey, support small YouTubers. Support people who are trying to do, the right thing with all these bad things weighed against us. But hey, until then, y'all take it easy. Have a good one. I'll see you later.